Hey, what's up? This is a sermon illustration demonstration of how you get sermon illustrations about marriage specifically. So, if you're looking for sermon illustrations about marriage, this is the video that's going to show you exactly how to use my free sermon illustration tool, the Sermon Illustrator. And so you can get unlimited illustrations about marriage, customize them, create images, the whole nine yards. So, here's what I typed in. I typed about, I want to talk about marriage and how to date for life, like cultivating your relationship with your wife. And it said, okay, what's the subtopic you're looking for? Intentional pursuit, joy in the journey, faithfulness in the mundane. Sorry, my screen blinked for a second. Sacrificial love, growing together, mutual delight. What is it you want to talk about? And I said, how about one? You notice how easy this is to use? I just said one. And it said, okay, intentional pursuit. Great, you're focused on intentional pursuit. Here are 40 illustrations across 20 distinct areas. It's actually 42 illustrations. So it gave me ideas of Ronald and Nancy Reagan. He wrote countless love letters to Nancy, even while president. John and Abigail Adams, during long absences, they exchanged over 1,000 letters, keeping emotional closeness. Wow, that's significant. I was not aware of that. I've heard of their relationship, but I was not aware of that. So that would be an interesting one historically, right? Neuroplasticity and relationships, the Michelangelo effect. Two examples from social science: the Gottman Love Map and Bids for Connection study. John Gottman, that's a really cool study, by the way. So I hadn't thought of that. So that's the kind of thing. That's the reason I use this illustrator, is because it'll prompt things that I had already known sometimes, but I hadn't thought of. It's just a great way to brainstorm. Grow Old with Me by John Lennon from music. Claude Monet and his wife Camille. From movies, The Notebook, Up. They're reading their love story to their wife who suffers from Alzheimer's. Wow, yeah, emotional, right? Up. Pixar, the opening montage shows Carl and Ellie's quiet, lifelong pursuit of each other. That's cool. That's cool, like the animated thing there. Literature, The Velveteen Rabbit. Ooh, neat, neat. Wow. So you get the idea. There's a lot of things here. Jane Eyre, Mr. Rochester. Metaphors, for examples: a garden, a campfire, a symphony, a dance. Okay. Poetry, Rainer Maria Rilke. I don't know that one, but there's some lines from her and Elizabeth Browning. And then quotes: Gary Thomas, okay, cool. Tim Keller, marriages, Roman marriages. It gives you two examples from that context. Roman marriages were largely utilitarian. Marriage was typically arranged, okay. Early church, Tertullian's writings, Christian couples praying together, fasting together, encouraging each other. Clement of Alexandria taught that Christian spouses should pursue intimacy and unity. Biblical parallels: Jacob and Rachel, Song of Songs. All right. So current events, viral couple dances. Okay. That's interesting. So if you're looking for some, so you get this thing where you're like Clement of Alexandria, TikTok, right? It just draws from all these areas and gives you tons of ideas in a really short period of time. Fables, parables, folklore, and mythology: Japanese folklore, folktale of the crane wife. The myth of Orpheus and Eurydice. Global cultural practices: Nyepi Day and Pepero Day. Interesting. So these you get sometimes examples from around the world. Just it helps you kind of build out things. U.S. history: John and Louisa Adams. Okay. Letters from Civil War soldiers to their wives. Interesting. Sports: Drew Brees and his wife Brittany. Tony Dungy. Little known inspiring characters: Anthony and Donna Bowman, George and Susie Washington. Strange or compelling court cases: divorce case in the UK where a woman cited a lack of romance as a cause. Case where a man sued himself in China to prove his commitment to stop self-destructive behaviors harming his marriage. That sounds interesting. So, surprising facts: couples who do weekly date nights have 3.5 times higher marital satisfaction. Okay, that's really interesting. Marriages that include intentional compliments lower divorce rates. Okay, cool. So that's 42 ideas on illustrations for marriage. So here's what you can do. You can say, let's do campfire. Okay, so it's like, great. So it gives me some thoughts about that right here. And here's what it says. Would you like to do any of these things? Would you like to create a PowerPoint? Would you like to create a narrative version you can paste into your sermon notes? Would you like to create a short social post? I said, let's do all three. First, give me a narrative. So it starts right in. Let me give you a picture that might help this sink in. Think of your marriage like a campfire. At the beginning, it starts with a spark. It's exciting. There's warmth and light. First few logs catch. But if you've ever started a fire and then walked away for a while, you know what happens. It doesn't stay hot forever. It starts to die down. The flames lower. The heat fades. That's exactly what can happen in marriage. You get the idea. There's this like real. It just puts a narrative version that flows like you would speak. And so next I'll generate a sermon illustration. Okay, so here we go. So it created this slide right here, this PowerPoint. Okay, cool. Then it says here are 2 social media posts. Is the fire still burning in your marriage? This Sunday we're going to talk about, I'm going to blow this up just a little bit. Is the fire still burning in your marriage? We'll talk about how to keep the flame alive. Social post number 2, marriage is like a campfire. If you want the warmth, you got to feed the flames. Don't stop dating your spouse. So one of these is like before the sermon, like this Sunday we're talking about this. Social post 2 is like after the sermon, like just kind of to remind people of what they heard and keep them engaged. So would you like me to create a social media image? No, give me a narrative version of this. So it actually that you could use in a manuscript or in a devotional email. So it created a second one of those. Now here's what I said. Okay, let me give you just one thing. Here's what happened. I said, you tell me about Anthony and Donna Bowman, a missionary couple. And it said, it turns out that detailed public information on that, especially their specific story of handwritten notes, is extremely limited or unavailable. Here's why it's saying that. Because I pre-programmed this GPT to give me what I wanted. And what I wanted was partly reliability. I wanted to be able to have links and to have things. I didn't want to share stuff that was fake. I didn't want to get embarrassed by like, oh, this is not a real thing. And so it searches for it and says, well, actually, there's not enough content out there for me to give you links. It's more of a personal or church community anecdote rather than widely documented. Okay, that's cool. That's actually exactly what you want AI doing for you. You want it programmed to not give you baloney, right? So if you want to be able to do this, by the way, I have a video course that shows you everything about this and how you can create all of this stuff for yourself on a regular basis. And so that is, I'll have the link in the video description and on this page where the video will be posted. So I said, well, give me one about Tony Dungy. It's like, great, here's a narrative version. When I read about Hall of Fame coach Tony Dungy and his wife Lauren, how they've strengthened their marriage over the years, they had 11 children, 3 biological and 8 adopted, that they intentionally scheduled a weekly date night. Now, here's what it does. This is what it couldn't do with the last story, and it does for you now. It gives you links. So literally, you can go and you can see, is this a real story? Let's see. Yes, it is. Tony and Lauren Dungy here's an article about them in Focus on the Family. All right, so it's definitely a real thing, and you can link to that. You can know that there's also quotes about it on Goodreads and Wikipedia. So the point is, it is verifiable, and that's one of the big things, right? You don't want to be that guy who's like sharing things that you can't guarantee, and you're making up stuff. If you're ever worried about AI and is going to hallucinate and embarrass you, this is what you need to know. So that said, give me a social media post about it. So it did. Tony Dungy coached the Super Bowl team, raised 11 kids, and so that's before the sermon, and then after the sermon. And then I said, can you give me I tried to edit this picture. I said, can you give me a loving couple beside this fire? So it's a little off, right? Sometimes that happens. It's okay, no problem. I tried to see if it would give me a couple, and instead of putting it on the far side of the fire, it put them on the near side of the fire. So I would probably just revert back to the original picture. I wanted to see if it was something that would be workable. So it didn't work that time. I do have a whole 30-minute episode on how to get the best results from ChatGPT for image generation. And if you want to generate images for a ton of this stuff, I've got some of them here on the page, but I also have the ability for you to have all of them and do it for yourself. And so if you're interested in that, you can get the video right in the video description, or on this page you can find the place where it actually gives you complete directions on how you can create all this stuff for yourself. So thanks a lot. We'll see you down the road, and see you hopefully in the members area of the how pastors can use AI for sermon prep without cheating or selling out.